Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Today, I have my newest sponsor, which is Ramp Metals, on to talk about their fantastic discovery. It's not very often these days that companies make grassroots discoveries, let alone one with 70 some grams over 7 meters of gold on their first and only hole so far. So they've had quite a lot of attention since that, and I'm always happy to when I can find a company when they're on their discovery hole and watch it evolve. And I think they got a great chance of it evolving into something quite spectacular. So today I have Jared Black and Garrett from the Ramp guys. So thanks for joining me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Alan. It's always a pleasure being on your show. And yeah, look, we are a grassroots exploration company, as you mentioned. We only drilled 4 holes into the property so far. One, which was like that tremendous gold intercept of almost 75 grams per ton over 7.5 meters. And we did things like the total unconventional way, like going back to like those true grassroots exploration companies where you go and work the property. You don't have any old holes to go on. And we did it the unconventional way where we actually flew geophysics TDEM survey originally. And when we were looking for those like nickel sulfides that are usually good conductors, we just decided to drill those and make our dollars go a lot further in the ground. And yeah, right now we have 3 main targets on the site. One being like that Ranger target, which was unbelievable, and Rogue as well. We did hit some low grade as well at Rogue, which was about 3 kilometers away from Ranger. And then I'll let you and Garrett speak more about the rocks we recently found at Rush, which is pretty exciting.
You know, that brings up a topic that I always pay attention to. It's when a company is looking for one metal and they find something else. That's There's been some fantastic discoveries like that. In fact, one of the big ones was Diamond Fields Resources. They were actually out looking for diamonds, and their geologists flew back towards the camp, and they saw this rusty colored outcropping of rock, and they forced the pilot to drop them down and take some samples. They kind of got in trouble with the management because they weren't even supposed to be out there looking for metals. And when it came back with very high grade, they were able to convince management to poke a holes, and the rest is history, as you say. So, yeah, I love those looking for one metal, find something else stories.
Yeah, wouldn't it be interesting if this turns into be one of those Boise Bay stories like you're talking about? And it's funny. I just recently purchased that book, The Big Score, like the
Ah,
Robert Friedland story. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and which is like I know this is off topic, but it was extremely hard to find because they're not in production anymore. You have to. It's almost like $100 or something on Amazon.
yeah,
That's a whole nother story, and that's I think that's what we live for in this greenfield exploration is actually finding new and true deposits. And when you say like they found rusty rocks at surface, I think that's like pretty interesting with what we found at Rush recently. So.
okay. Well, where do you want to start, Garrett? We've got a few ways we can go with this. We can talk about the gold. We can talk about the rogue target that is not getting a lot of attention, but that one still, in my mind, has a lot of potential. And then you got this new rush target you guys are looking at. Why don't we start with Rush, get over to Rogue, and then get back to Ranger?
Sure, that sounds good. Yeah, so Rush for us was just a geophysical target that we had that was right on the very edge of our previous geophysical survey that we had done. We actually don't have a full picture of that target at the moment, but as I said, it was just right on the very edge, and at least a portion of it was cut off by the just the coverage of the geophysics. So we had it was a nice, it looks like a 1,200 meter, conductor or conductive zone. And while we were out doing our program in October, we just said, hey, let's get some boots on the ground over there because everywhere we go on this property is brand new to us. Like we've spent, including the 14 days that we spent prospecting this fall, we've really only spent a total of 16 days on the property prospecting. So,
Wow.
every time we go out there, we just seem to find new stuff. And so I sent the guys out, while our main focus of this project or the prospecting and mapping stuff was, Rogue and Ranger because that's what we knew. I still wanted to go check out any of the other kind of major anomalies on the property. So we sent the guys out there, and when they came back, they were quite excited, obviously. They'd found an outcrop along the base of a ridge that had, for me anyway, it was the most interesting looking rocks of the property that we had seen so far, where we were getting mineralization at surface, chalcopyrite, that, peacock and malachite staining at surface. So for me, it was quite exciting to, actually see the mineralization at surface because, as you know, from our rogue or our ranger core, it's very difficult to see there and it's not something that stands out super visually. So to have this at surface, I was, very, very excited about that. We were expecting it to come back with some copper grades just because of the mineralization that we were seeing.
Yep.
And along the base of that ridge, we were consistently getting samples anywhere from 0.45% copper up to 1.61% copper.
Wow.
So that was again quite exciting for us. Along with the copper, there were other metals mixed in there. So we had, up to 113 grams per ton of silver, 0.79 grams per ton gold,
Holy
and then
moly.
some zinc and lead kickers as well. So just with the mineralization suite that we're getting there, we're obviously thinking that it's something completely different than Ranger and Rogue. I would peg it more in the, potentially VMS style mineralization just because of the suite of minerals that we're finding together. But it was more than just the outcrop. Like there's not a whole lot of outcropping there. So we sampled what we could of the outcrop and then it kind of dips under cover to the northeast and to the southwest.
Yeah.
It sent the guys out to do, just a few lines of soils to see if it continued. And we were able to stretch that copper mineralization out to up to 270 meters, I think, of strike.
Wow.
We include
So
every,
that's where it came to surface, the what we
yeah. And for me, what's very exciting about the target is that, all these surface samples seem to lie over top of this 1,200-meter conductive zone. So, our working theory is now, or what we hope is that, if we're getting this style of disseminated mineralization at surface, then, the cause of the conductor that's below it could just be a greater accumulation of these sulfides. So,
Wow, that would be very exciting because a 1,200-meter strike of a VMS is pretty spectacular. And I like that you mentioned that it's coincident with the sampling is coincident with the geophysical anomaly.
yeah, like I said, it's as far as a new target anyway, especially a potential VMS target. We really couldn't ask for better evidence. I mean, we're getting, samples in rock, like on the outcrop that grade. We're getting soil geochem that grades, and then, like I said, you've got this nice big conductor underneath it. So
Wow.
it's pretty much ticks every box for a very good drill target, and I look forward to punching some holes in it this winter.
Well, I don't blame you. And another nice thing about VMS deposits is that they come in clusters, and when you find one, you usually find more. And it sounds like you kind of got a checkbox there of what to make of a good target. So if it works out, it could be great.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, they do tend to form in clusters. And we do have other, smaller EM targets around, but we didn't have the time and that to get out there before the snow flies. So we did what we could. We spent a couple days smashing around there and doing the soils, but then we had to go back to sampling Rogue and Ranger and really focusing on what we knew. So
So for the non-geologist out there, why these things come in clusters is they're volcanogenic massive sulfides. So they're volcanoes that cause these. And usually where there's one, you got more. And one of the models is it used to be ancient seafloors that you get these black smokers, and then they sort of spread out the sulfides. And does that fit into where you are?
I mean, Rottenstone is so underexplored. The Rottenstone domain is so underexplored that it's always a potential. We do have, VMS style mineralization in Saskatchewan for sure.
Yes.
I mean, Flin Flon is right on the border. That was a big, VMS style camp on the eastern border. And we do get, if you look through all the SAS mineral assessment database and, the mineral showings in the province, there uh, are quite a few VMS showings. They tend to be remobilized just because everything's been, highly metamorphosed in the area.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, we definitely get those showings around the province. The issue with the Rottenstone domain is there's just been really no exploration out there. So
Wow.
as I said, everything that we kind of find is brand new. So
And it's interesting because you guys acquired this ground because it's in close proximity to a mine. That's the Rottenstone mine, I think it's called. Did
correct,
I get
yes.
that?
Our neighbors to the northeast is Fathom Nickel.
Yeah.
And they have a very good working theory that you know, the Rottenstone mine is the only past producing nickel, copper, and PGE mine in Saskatchewan.
Oh, so
So
the
it was,
polymetallic.
yeah, it was extremely high grade. I think it averaged over 3% nickel, I think 1.8% copper, and then these crazy grades of PGEs and gold where it was up to I think 9.3 grams per ton of
Oh,
PGEs and gold mixed in
wow.
with it. And the thing with that is it was found in a very small pod of mafic or ultramafic material.
Okay.
And to get those grades, you generally don't find those. Like there's just not enough material there to leach out that many metals from that small pod of mafic to ultramafic material that it was in. So Fathom was always of the opinion that it had to be part of a much bigger system, which I agree with, and so they had built a very big land package and raised, I think they raised upwards of $15 million when they went public, in between 10 and 15 somewhere, to go out exploring. And I had always had my eye, no pun intended, but my eye on this eye structure that was to the southwest along strike that looked very similar to the Nova Bollinger eye structure that Mark Bennett had found in Australia.
So
I,
Mark Bennett is part of your team and he
he
found
is.
that's a mine, that's that eye structure.
Yeah, so Nova was found by Sirius Resources, which was by Mark Bennett's company in Australia, and they sold it for 1.8 billion,
Wow.
Australian dollars.
So you saw a structure and then you did geophysics over that, and it looks the same kind of bullseye structure, right?
Correct. It looked eerily similar. Like, I
Huh.
mean, it even strike the same direction, which I know doesn't mean anything because it's half a world away, but everything just lined up so perfectly that when we were trying to raise money to go public, Jordan and I were talking, and I was like, why don't we just shoot this to Mark and see what he thinks? Like, he doesn't know me from Adam. I don't expect him to, really reply to anything, but we reached out and sent him the data, and as he was pretty floored. He's like, everything just looks so similar,
Huh.
And then he ended up coming on board. And yeah, we decided to go out and drill our targets right away. Unfortunately, those targets that we drilled, we hit nice sulfides throughout those targets, but
Yes.
it was all just, pyrrhotite and stuff. Unfortunately, there was no nickel associated with the targets that we had drilled at the time, but we were pleasantly surprised with the gold for sure because a brand new area, I just figure you sample top to bottom at least for gold, because you just never know where that stuff's going to be hiding.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did because we found gold in actually every hole that we drilled that program.
So you've got the Rush, that's a new target.
Correct.
And Rogue was like you got some sniffs in there, right?
Yeah, so Rogue, as I said, Rogue and Ranger originally we were targeting these conductive anomalies. We picked our two best conductors on the property when we were drilling them because that's what we were looking for were these nickel sulfides.
Yeah.
But when we drilled Rogue, we got, you know, if I'm comparing Rogue and Ranger, to me, Rogue looks much more like your traditional gold system that we would see, especially in our hole in Rogue 2. Pretty much the last, 100 meters or so was just that typical, very altered, very green core with all this quartz flooding and, quartz carbonate veining throughout, arsenopyrite, everything we would want to see. And we did get sniffs of gold in all of our rogue holes. As you mentioned, I think it was up to 1.22 grams per ton over about a meter and a half was our best. But we did get multiple intercepts of these, shorter intercepts and lower grade for a completely new target that you've never drilled before. I think it was pretty exciting to see all that, especially with the alteration and veining and sulfides that we were seeing. So while gold wasn't our original,
Target.
model or what we were really going after, Rogue is quite exciting. When we were out there in October, because Rogue is covered with up to 10 meters of overburden, so there's like it's all glacial till and
No,
everything.
no outcrop.
No outcrop. The best we can do is a soil grid. So we did a big soil grid over top of it, and again, we were pretty surprised to get, multiple samples over 100 ppb gold, and they maxed out at 530 ppb, so over half a gram per ton in soils above this.
Huh.
And where it's located is right in the nose of a folded structure. So again, it just really seems to fit this, a really nice gold model anyway.
So for the non-geos out there, when he talks about folds in the rocks, where you get that bend in the rocks is a good place where the rocks are well prepared for fluids that carry gold to make their way up through into that rock.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's still a really good target.
Oh, it is for sure. And like I said, we'll definitely be drilling that this winter as well. Just with all the evidence we saw last year and the soil samples above to, confirm the target. We will be punching some holes out there this year, but the main difference this year is last year we were just targeting these conductive bodies looking for nickel, right?
Yeah.
This year be more focused on these structures, these faults, really trying to pin down what's controlling the gold mineralization in the area rather than, just hitting it by mistake. We're really going to try to focus in on which structures are controlling it and, what parts of the structure seem to be mineralized.
All right, so let's talk about what's got everybody's attention, which is the Ranger, the high grade hit there with the almost a 500 gram meter metal factor. That on its own is quite exciting. But what I find interesting is I looked at that rock and it doesn't look like it should carry any gold. It looks like a countertop in your kitchen, not what usually has gold in it, which has me thinking, is that you're probably quite distal to the actual zone. And if you're getting that much gold distal to the zone, what does that tell you about the potential of when you get into the guts of the system?
Yeah, like you said, it's, to use your words, the countertop. That's literally how I described this core to Jordan and to the guys, on the board when we drilled it. Because again, this wasn't what we were targeting. We were targeting a conductive anomaly at Ranger. And the way our geophysics looked was that we would intersect a conductive body at 50 meters, and then it looked like it kind of wrapped around. And just with the way the hole was designed, I was like, okay, we'll punch through it at 50, and if we keep punching, we might be able to tag it again, at around the 300 mark. So that's what we were targeting. We hit the conductor right at 50 meters where we expected. And then we got in. So I was like, well, it's the last hole of the program. We'll just keep drilling until we have no more time left and we'll see if we can tag it again. Um, so then we got into this quartz diorite intrusion right around 145 meters. And yeah, like you said, the countertop, that's literally how I described it. I was not happy to see this rock. I was like, this is boring. It doesn't look like anything good. I always describe it as 170 meters of countertop that I didn't want to see. But it wasn't just your straight quartz diorite. So it's like almost intrusive on intrusive, where we have, the main body is quartz diorite, and then we get these, thin bands of more, I want to say granitic material that are cutting across it. Um, and then we also have, especially around the mineralized zone, like the high grade zone, seems to be sandwiched in between two mafic dikes. Um,
Okay.
so so it's not just straight quartz diorite. I mean, the
So
majority of it,
those dikes might be responsible
the
for the gold
dikes
minerals?
could have something to do with it for sure. But like you said, it was very boring looking rock. We decided to sample, like I said, we sample everything top to bottom. And then when we got these results back, I was floored. I was like, what is going on here? I actually had to like drive back up to Prince Albert to look at the core because it just wasn't core that we looked at before.
Yeah, my understanding is you guys didn't even really look at it. You logged it, didn't
Yeah.
really look at it very closely. Then when
Well,
you got back the grades, you went and put it under a microscope and started to see some visible gold.
yeah, again, everything is so small, like you're looking at it through the microscope, as you said. And we did notice that there are sulfides in that zone, especially concentrated around the edges of those granitic bands where we're getting the different, maybe smaller geologic contacts. Um, but again, everything is very, very small. It's not something that really stands out. Those zones seem to be a little more foliated than the others.
Yeah.
The rest of the intrusion is pretty massive.
Tell my
So
audience a little bit about what you mean by foliation.
so foliation is just generally a zone of higher stress, if you will, higher strain on the rocks. It's zones where you get the minerals aligning more, so um, they just kind of make these nice lines in the rock rather than just kind of being scattered
Okay.
throughout. So, um, as I said, it generally is indicative of, a higher strain than the surrounding rock. If the surrounding rock, everything is just kind of spread out like that, and then you're getting these zones where things are really lining up. Um, but yeah, that's as of now, like I said, we're really just trying to pick out why this zone and not the other 150 meters above it, why, or two, yeah, or about 100 meters above it, why the extra 100 meters above it wasn't really grading,
Yeah.
it
And
just,
why this
and why
particular?
this. As I said, we have those dikes. So right after the first main dike that we get into, maybe a meter to a meter and a half past that contact, we do get a couple meters of half a gram per ton. And then it kind of peters out for, 5 meters or whatever. And then we get into the high grade zone. And then um, once we get out of the high grade zone, it's not like it's zeros. We still have, zero point 0.3, zero point 0.1 grams per ton that continue as we get further away from that zone.
Huh.
And then we have other zones in the hole as well. So we got back into it at, I want to say 293 to 297, or 293 to 298. where we got, a meter and a half of 7 point some odd grams, meter and a half, 6 grams.
Oh,
And
wow.
then again, towards the end of the hole. So the hole ended at 314, and we ended up getting our last intercept was 307 to 310. We got 3 meters of 1.8 grams per ton.
So
So
lots of gold in there throughout the hole.
I don't know if we were because everything dips to the northwest there after doing our surface program and everything. The regional strike on everything is northeast southwest, and then it dips shallowly to the northwest. And the way this hole was designed was we were drilling at 310/60, so pretty much drilling northwest, kind of along the same way it's dipping.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we were just, if we were close to a contact and we were just kind of riding in and out on the way down. But we'll definitely know more this upcoming program. We plan to do a pretty tight fence around it and also come back at it across, across dip like you would normally want to do, with oriented core and everything like that, so we can get a much better handle on how this sits in the subsurface, and what it looks like essentially.
Well, the fact that you only have very fine grained gold, and to get those grades, it wasn't just one little piece of fine grained gold
No,
that
yeah.
gives you that. So, but that also suggests to me that you're still high in the system or distal to the main zone.
Yeah, I would think so. With those grades, you would almost expect it, smeared all over the core and be able to really, or very altered, something you can pick out visually.
Yeah, with those
Well,
grades for sure.
it's just, as I said, it's an interesting puzzle to figure out anyway. But like I said, with the more holes we get into this thing, and obviously the more information we get about, the way the packages are stacked together, how this dips, um, I think it'll help, you know, going forward anyway, just to get a much better picture of what's going on. Because as of right
So,
now, the non-oriented core that we had, other than the depth of intercept, it's very hard to pull things out from that. So.
for targeting, you're doing some geophysics right now. Is that correct?
Correct. So again, Ranger was right on the very edge of our geophysics, just as Rush was. Like I'm talking right on the very edge. I'm not even sure we should have picked it up, but it just with the way that they fly the lines, they start, collecting the data a little bit before uh, the polygon you gave them,
Yeah.
and it just happened to be in there. So again, we don't have a very good picture of it, and I'm not expecting like I don't expect the EM in the geophysics to pull anything out for Ranger. Just because, it's
Structure though, right?
structure from the mag for sure,
Yeah.
that which will help a lot. But the EM stuff I think will really help with targeting at Rush, because we would be targeting more of these conductive plates, conductive bodies, rather than structure, which is what we'll probably be targeting at Ranger.
At
Um,
Ranger, did you see anything in the core that explains that conductive anomaly?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, we hit the conductor right at 50 meters where we expected. So it was, but again, it was just all pyrrhotite. We had like semi-massive sulfides right at 50 meters, over, I want to say a couple meters anyway. But again, it was just all, pyrrhotite, pyrite, just not those nickel sulfides we were looking
So
for.
the geophysics is picking up the sulfides.
Yes, correct. So the EM thing that we were targeting there, yes, was caused by sulfides. Now, whether those sulfides are, because how I said it looked like it wrapped around,
Yes.
I'm I'm wondering if those sulfides are potentially like a marker bed that surround the intrusion that we're looking at. But at least the hole that we drilled the sulfides that we encountered didn't have any
No
mineralization.
kicks. So in relation to where you hit the high grade gold, did you have some of those sulfides near there?
Well, the at around 220 mark, I mean, it looked like from our geophysics that we would, like as I said, we would punch through the top of it and then kind of keep going and hopefully tag it again at
Right.
300. So I think we were pretty close to the sulfides, at
Where you hit the gold.
where we hit the goal, but I can't say for sure because we never really saw, we don't have that other contact on the other side. I only have that after we punch through at 50 meters, it probably
Oh,
started 145. So um,
okay.
it's just,
Well, maybe that will be helpful in targeting if they're associated.
that's what I'm wondering. Yeah. And it is interesting that, we're seeing there seems to be at least some sort of spatial relationship between these conductive sulfide bodies, both at Ranger and at Rogue, because at Rogue,
Oh,
again, we were targeting these conductive sulfide bodies. And although the gold wasn't found within, these semi-massive sulfides and stuff that we hit,
yes.
still found in the same holes. So I'm wondering if there's some sort of spatial relationship between them
Right, right.
and if we can use that as some sort of targeting vector.
Well, I was fortunate to have as a mentor in geophysics the guy who was the world exploration manager for Anglo. And he had a saying that he said sometimes the magic works and sometimes the magic doesn't work. And the point he was trying to make were a couple. One was that, you got to get the right survey to help you with what you're looking for. And secondly, if that can be helpful in finding what you're looking for. And in this case, maybe the magic is not telling you where the gold is, but it could be telling you what's around it. And because that survey is giving you a kick, you could use that as a targeting tool.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm hoping. Just because, like I said, it's so easy to pick these, EM conductors out with the geophysics, and it would really narrow down uh, our targets rather than just kind of wandering this whole property and checking every single structure and everything like that. So
Well, hey, it's working so far. Maybe you should just do that.
so far, yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I
There
mean,
you go, Garrett. Don't
we
get too cute. You might just miss something there.
exactly, and that's why we are, flying the entire property. So with our property or with how big we expanded the property now, our original property size was I think just shy of 10,000 hectares, and now we're up to over 30,000. So
Oh,
when we flew the geophysics, we originally only flew it over our 10,000 hectare property. So we have a huge swaths of the property that haven't been flown yet. And that's what we're doing right now, actually. The crew's out on site flying the geophysics for us.
I'm going a bit off my memory here, so if I stumble a little, just let me know. But I remember looking at the geophysics, and it looked like there was an anomaly here and another one to the north, and you were kind of drilling on this edge of it. And the one to the immediate north was quite a bit bigger. And I thought I saw a structure coming from east to west.
Yeah, if I just let me pull up my
Here, let me get you. And like I said, I'm going off my memory, so I don't know
yeah, so
if I got that all right. But here, let me allow you to share. There you go.
that would have been the rogue target here. Let me just click some stuff on here.
Because I think I remember seeing and thinking right away, oh wow, it looks like they're right at that edge of that anomaly, and maybe that's what you want to follow.
Yeah, so this is just let me do screen share here. You guys can see that okay?
No, not, oh, there we go. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so if this is our EM map, so what
That's
would
Rogue, right?
right in the center here, this is Rogue here with our soil grid of, gold over top of it.
Yeah.
Ranger is down here. That was the anomaly we were targeting at Ranger. And then this is Rush up here. As you can see, it was all cut off. We don't quite have a full picture of it here.
Okay, okay.
But Rogue was the main focus of our project last time. If I just click those soils off. Um, so that we do have a structure that comes in here. As I said, this is the EM. We were targeting kind of the nose of that structure.
Yeah.
But I do have a structural map here, or the mag map. So you can see the structure kind of comes in here and then folds, and then there's another one that wraps around it. But that's what we were targeting at Rogue. These are the drill holes on it that we have currently.
Yeah, I
Uh,
thought I saw a structural feature going east to west, so that
it
must be it right
I'm
there.
assuming this is it right here, because as I said, the EM map does follow right along that
Oh,
structure
yeah, yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah.
east-west. It just kind of looks like it goes into a blob, but it actually, it does fold around here. But the main conductive body that we had was, as I said, right kind of in the nose here, and we punched a few holes into it. We still haven't tested this guy off
Oh, yeah, you've
west
only
of
got a
there.
couple holes into a really big anomaly there.
But yeah, like I said, we did hit sulfides on every hole, which was good to see. I mean, when you're out there just punching these conductors, they a lot of times they're just graphitic or something you're not really chasing after. So while we didn't get the intercepts of nickel and stuff that we were hoping for. For me, it was nice to see that every hole we punched was caused by, sulfides rather than a graphitic conductor.
So can you zoom out a little bit there? Now I remember what I saw. So yeah, you drilled that geophysical anomaly down there for Ranger,
Yeah.
and it almost looks like it could go up to the north, and then the east-west feature could connect there.
Yeah, so this is Ranger here. So like I said, it's right on the very edge. We really don't have a great picture of it.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm not sure if it does get, like you said, truncated off. Looks like this one just kind of folds around. But once we get the geophysics flown over here, which, like I said, we're flying it right now, should give us a much better idea of, what's going on structurally over there, and if we do have another one that's coming in, to the east. Um, because I'm not sure if I have it on. No, I think it's clipped. The
It's
government
like
geo.
you got some nested folds in there all over the place.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's so structurally complex there. Like we're looking at
Ah,
probably
we like structurally
migrations.
complex.
Um,
The structural complexity is good for gold mineralization.
for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's just, like I said, there's so many places to look right now that um, we really started by focusing on the ones that have those conductive bodies associated with the structure.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I think I can see in that one, it looks like there could be two lobes at Ranger.
At Ranger here, yeah. And like I said, from the government geophysics, I'm pretty sure what we have is clipped. Yeah. So if
Can you
you go
show me
into
the government geophysics? I might be have looked at that too. I can't remember.
I'll have to go. Just give me 1 second. I'll have to pull that up here. Um,
Because this looks a lot more detailed than what I saw
yeah,
using
last
up my
time I
memory.
probably was showing you the government geophysics,
That's what I'm thinking.
because that ends up like just has more coverage. It's very coarse. Uh,
Yes.
but it just has much more coverage. So
So
just give me
this is from your own geophysics, right?
this was what I was showing you guys on screen there was exactly the geophysics that we flew originally to cover our original claim block.
So
And
what was the line spacing on this?
100-meter spacing. So we
And the
do,
government was
oh, the government, I have no idea. I
like
want to say
probably 200 to 400 meters
four
spacing.
hundred meters somewhere in
Because
that.
they do pretty wide lines. They're just sort of kind of doing regional stuff, trying to
Yeah,
show the potential.
I'll just share this screen here. So this is the province here. The great thing about Saskatchewan is their geo atlas for me. Like this is how we pick, how I do a lot of my research, pick properties that, nobody's been to, just because they have all the geophysics flown
Huh.
over the entire property, over the entire province. So we just go magnetic intensity. I'll have to zoom into, where are we here? Right up here. So this is the eye structure here.
Yeah.
Maybe if I do first vertical derivative, we might be able to see a bit better. So there, I don't know if this is a structure. This is the eye structure here, and Ranger is kind of located right about where my cursor is.
Yeah. I
Um,
went on Google Earth and I was certain I saw an east to west structure. And
yeah, again, I'm not sure if this is, I mean, to me, it looks like a structure coming straight east-west,
yes.
but I'm not 100% sure
And
yet.
there's actually some, if you look on Google Earth, there's some features in the rocks or in the land that makes it look like it's a structure. Where is Ranger again? Do you know on this map?
I just gotta flip back to it. Just give me one
I think
second.
it's slightly below that east to
Here is
west. What I
roughly
saw is what I thought was an east to west structure.
right where my cursor is here.
Okay.
Is roughly where Ranger is. I don't have the exact coordinates punched in here, but as I said, it to me it looks like if this is an east-west structure, it would be right at the intersection of that structure and the regional structures that run northeast, southwest.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh,
Again, that's a good place for rock preparation.
exactly. Again, I really want to see our geophysics once we have it flown, just because it's
Ye-
going to be so much more detailed than what
Yes.
this government stuff is. But it does look to be in the area where these structures converge. So,
Huh.
like I said,
Sometimes that old Google Earth is it's my favorite exploration tool. And sometimes that magic works too.
yeah, exactly. Like, I do have satellite imagery here, but I'm not sure we can see too much on it. Give me a second.
So, oh, good. Okay. So yeah, you got all these north, east, southwest structures.
Yes, correct.
And then yeah, it looks like right cutting right to the Ranger.
Like if you
Yes,
look,
that.
see this, like this is, I would think this is a structure here, especially because you can just see it, linking all these lakes and everything.
That's what I saw. Yeah, that's what I saw.
So I'm
That's
pretty sure
exactly what I saw.
that that's a structure.
And so that little green dot there, that's where you drilled.
Yes, correct. So these are the drills and the drill traces.
So then you look at where the lake goes and it starts to look like it bends right where that structure is.
Yeah, it looks like if for the geophysics that we did have, it does look like it comes up here and bends this way.
That's
Uh,
that's what got me really excited because now you're starting to talk about some size.
yeah, like I said, there's there's so many unknowns about this thing right now. As I said, with just the one hole into it, I'm assuming that it does follow, the regional structure here that does run northeast, southwest,
Yeah,
but it could wrap around here, and intersect with this structure that runs across here.
right, right, right.
Um, but it's just, as I said, it's very structurally complex. Like it's everything is folded and everything. Like you can see around.
So
Uh,
what folks, when he's talking about structurally complex, what that means is that there's cracks in the earth. Faults are cracks in the earth. And where you get complex cracks, this is where the rock is prepared so that fluids from deeper down can come up through those cracks as a conduit, a path of least resistance, if you will. And it allows for a couple things. It allows as a pathway, but also where you get the structural complexity, you can have what's called dilation zones. And this is where the rocks kind of open up, and it will allow the fluids to kind of get in there and pool up like a swimming pool, if you will. And so that's why earlier I said we like structural complexity, because that's where you look for uh, deposits of metals.
Exactly. Like, it does take a few things to make a deposit, and one of the big ones is space. Because I'm sure you've seen around, around the market, we get all kinds of these very short intercepts, and they're nice high grade, but they're just too small for anybody to do anything with because they're so short. You really need those, as you said, dilation zones or somewhere where enough space has been created to allow, enough material there to do something with.
Right.
So space is a big, big factor in, finding these deposits or producing these deposits.
And in the fabric of the rock, where you get the rocks bending, these are other places where you can, where those fluids, the gold is in the fluids. And so the fluids need to have a road to follow and a swimming pool to jump into, if you will.
Yeah, and as you said, the nose of the folds or the bends here,
Yes.
they tend to concentrate the fluids in that area. So while this whole structure may be mineralized, it may only be, a couple meters here, a couple meters wide here. And then when you get to the nose, that's where you have those blowouts and it creates, more space and everything for the fluids is at those bends.
It's almost like if you were bending a steel rod, and where it bends, that's where you have those weakness of the metal, if you will, so that the rocks are kind of like that too, folks. They're not just hard things that we think of.
No, they're very hard now, at surface,
Yes,
but when these things were formed and at the depth and everything that they were formed, they were very malleable.
that's the word, malleable. Sorry.
I was in school, they would tell us like picture it like toothpaste or something, it gets that consistency where it can actually just fold around and make all kinds of crazy things can happen with the rocks, that's not just.
So let's get back off the screen share. And so Jordan, you kind of caused a little bit of a stir in the mining business, not just with the discovery, but you guys had a staking rush go on around you.
Yeah, look, when we first made that discovery, I called up Garrett and I was like, this was over the weekend when we got the results on Friday night. I was like, do we have enough land? And they're like, well, probably not. So Garrett and Brett actually, they did a great job, I think, staking another, what, like 14,000 hectares to bring our total land package to almost 33,000 hectares. And as you brought up, Allan, like we're completely surrounded now. So we got our main trends, like you were just talking about those fault zones and trends. We staked a good package around those. But now look, it's a newly discovered area. We call it a potential new gold district, the Rottenstone domain. Never really explored other than the Rottenstone mine. And Larange is pretty famous for its gold belt. And you have SSR mining, I think over 1 million ounces there. So I think this is a huge opportunity for many explorers, not just us, but when you have a true grassroots exploration area, you can find multiple deposits.
And I like those staking rushes because earlier we mentioned diamond fields, and I remember that was one of Canada's great staking rushes. I was also very involved with diamonds for a lot of my career, and there was a big staking rush up in the Northwest Territories. So you guys got one underway there in Saskatchewan.
For sure, for sure. And Brett, our colleague, he did a stint up at Rio Tinto, so he's familiar with diamonds as well, I think.
Well, I'll
So
tell you, diamonds are so complex that they make for some of the best explorers there is in the entire business. It's because you're looking for something that's so tiny. You got to use diamond indicator minerals and all kinds of science to find them, which gives you a good foundation for looking for anything. And so you gotta, if you got a diamond guy on your team, I always like to hear that.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, look, it's created a huge opportunity, like not only for us but for Saskatchewan. So we're working with the local communities. Garrett and Brett were up at uh, Mississippi last week doing our consulting. And Garrett, maybe you could explain a bit how we're setting up our camps and stuff for the upcoming drill program, how we're using local teams, and really excited to get this drill program going. Hopefully by the end of the month. Everything's scheduled in. We're just waiting for the final permits here.
Yeah, sure. So we'll be, as Jordan said, we'll be based out of Mississippi. So the closest major community I would say is Larange, and that's where we were just last week actually doing a community presentation, just talking with everybody in the community, explaining the project as part of our duty to consult process, which every company goes through for their permits, right? So. It's just, keeping everybody informed, speaking with the trappers in the area, and because we do have, trap lines and stuff that are out this way and cabins. So really just keeping everybody informed as to what we're up to and what we would like to do. And yeah, as Jordan said, we'll be based out of
You
Mississippi,
should
which
get some of those trappers to go out and show them the rock that you're looking for. My grandfather, I'm First Nations on my father's side, and my great grandfather, he had a trap line for like 60 years. And if you ever went and showed him a piece of rock and said, "Have you ever seen anything like this?" He would take you right to the spot, even if he saw it 30 years ago. So you might want to use some of that old-fashioned geology with those guys walking around looking down.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, like in our presentation, even though, it's not really community related. I still cover all the rocks because I'm a big rock dork. So, we still talk about all the different rocks we found and where we found them. And then, we really try to hire as much local help as we possibly can. So the nearest First Nations community to Mississippi is a little place called Grandmother's Bay, and that's where we sourced all our local help from last time. So we had, an older gentleman, Cecil, who was there for the entire project, and we took him out to the drills and, showed him everything we were up to. And it was just, it's good to have, the support of the communities and get them involved as much as possible.
Absolutely. And the more you educate them on what you're doing, for example, I was looking for diamonds near Rankin Inlet, and I went up there to Rankin, and there had been a bit of a bad reputation by one of the earlier companies, and I sort of told them what we were doing. I explained it to the First Nations community, and just that explanation of what we were going to do differently. Everybody said when I went up there, "You'll never get permits up there." We got all the permits we needed. We just, because of that outreach.
Yeah, I think that's just a big part of it. Like I wouldn't understand doing it any different way. I mean, if people were exploring in my backyard, I would kind of want to know about it, right? So it's literally just going up there, keeping everybody informed,
Yeah,
what's going on. If we're going out, even if we're going out to fly geophysics, I shoot them a quick email and say, hey, if you guys see the chopper around, that's what we're up to, it's literally just keeping people informed and
absolutely. Absolutely. It's amazing what you can get done if you're open and you explain things well. And so Saskatchewan is much more known for uranium. Diamonds were big there at one time. not so well known for gold and metals.
Uh, I think that's just I don't know why, to be honest with you. We do have the one gold mine in Saskatchewan that's kind of northeast of La Ronge, maybe 100 kilometers. It's at the CB gold mine, run by SSR now, I believe. It was originally Claude Resources, and then they got bought out. But that's one thing that Brett and I had always talked about was that everybody here just seems to have blinders on for the basin. They look in the Athabasca Basin for uranium.
Well, it's the one of the greatest
It
mining districts for uranium in the
it
world.
is
High
100.
grade, so you can kind of understand why
I
everybody's kind of
agree
focused
with
on
that
that.
for sure. My only issue was that I was like, well, we have all this other shield that, nobody's looking for. And especially I mean, if you look at maps of mines, let's just say in Manitoba, you've got all these mines like, Rutan mine and, Fox mine and Lynn Lake mine. And then it gets to the Saskatchewan border and it just stops. And I'm like, the geology doesn't care about some arbitrary line we drew on a map.
No, that's for sure.
Just nobody has been out there looking for it. So that's why we always saw it as a huge opportunity because we had, pick of basically anywhere that we wanted to in the province.
Well, you got a clean canvas to paint on there, Garrett.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Huge opportunity.
So, Jordan, on the corporate side of things, how's the cash? What's immediately ahead of us, and sort of what's the game plan for 2025?
Yeah, great questions. So, as you probably know, we did a nice financing after the gold discovery last year. Brought in Eric Sprott personally, Earth Labs, and a few others into that. We raised about 4.9 million with charity flow through, which is a nice incentive and non-dilutive for shareholders. So that was great. We're sitting still close to that 4.9 dollar range. We haven't really spent much. We did have some options and warrants exercise as well, which always helps. And yeah, look, we have a great Q1 coming up here. So we are currently flying the geophysics, as Garrett mentioned. That's ongoing. That will lead into our drill targeting phase. So we're hoping to get some maps produced over the next couple of weeks to really narrow down not just Ranger, but the rest of our three mineralized zones. Obviously, we're going to grid around Ranger and really step out slowly there so we don't miss anything. So we expect that to come soon. So following geophysics, we'll get permits. We'll mobilize immediately the drills, which are already scheduled in. And following that, we have a 30 to 60-day drill program, which is going to keep us really busy. That's really the most exciting part of all of this. As we all say, the proof is in the drills, and we've been waiting almost a year to get back out there. And we're going to have a busy year as well. Like, I don't think we're going to stop at just drilling. We'll probably lead into the summer prospecting program. Like Garrett mentioned, we've only spent a total of 16 days on site and we found
Wow.
three mineralized targets. So I can only imagine what we'll find if we spend 30 days out there. So that will take us into the summer. And if things progress really well, that's when we start thinking about building a camp and then the next big program, which would be probably 10,000 meters of drilling, which will get really exciting.
Wow, that sounds like a good plan. Well, definitely got to have you guys come back when you get that geophysical data because I know sometimes the investors out there they don't really care about that stuff, but I've been doing exploration for 30 years and I get really jived about it. As you can tell, I've already been on over your property on Google Earth looking at structures and so, use me as a sounding board, and I'm sure we can make it interesting to my audience.
Yeah, 100%. Can't wait to get back on here. And I think that's what I love about this show. It's a good in-depth conversation. And I could actually just sit back and listen to the smart people talk sometimes.
Well, I don't know if I go that far with me, but I guess I've learned a little bit in 30 years of poking holes in the ground looking for buried treasures.
For sure, for sure. Well,
Sure.
let's keep the treasure hunting going, and we'll be pleased to come back as soon as we can.
So we'll do when you get some geophysics, we'll talk again when you are ready to drill. And then hopefully we'll have some great drill results to talk about after that. Are you guys planning on going to the PDAC?
Yeah, we'll be around. I don't think we'll have a booth, but we'll definitely be walking around, setting up meetings. Feel free to reach out to myself and set up one-on-ones if you want to know more about the project. If we can, we will try to bring some rush samples out there, but most of them went to the lab, so I'm not sure how many we'll have. It's really nice to show the rocks with like that green oxidized copper staining on there. It's people love seeing that type of stuff. But if we don't, definitely the next PDAC will have beautiful core to show.
Well, I'll be there. And one of the things I do is I do a walk around and I do a podcast live. I actually put my microphone up in people's face and ask them to make comments. So we'll have to get together for a coffee for sure, Jordan.
Awesome. I'd be happy to.
All righty. So there you go, folks. Ramp Metals, brand new, publicly traded company, very young guys involved. And they've made a grassroots discovery of very high grade gold over a thick intersection for those kind of grades on their very first hole. It's exceedingly rare these days for companies to make grassroots gold discoveries of high grade and to do it with your first hole when you're looking for something else and you find gold. This is every discovery has sort of an interesting genesis of how it all got started. These guys got a great story of how it got started. And I think based on what I've seen so far, I think it's going to have a great future. And I'm glad to have them as a sponsor so that we can keep you all informed about how it's evolving. I'm a rock geek like Garrett, so I always like to talk about rocks. So do your homework, speak with your financial advisors, be aware that they are a sponsor, so they pay me to help do content, but what they don't pay me for is my opinions and my experience. That's based on 30 years in the business, having worked with extremely talented people in geophysics, geology, and geochemistry. So yeah, as all my sponsors, I like to talk about rocks, and they got some great looking rocks there, and with some real high grade gold in it. So look forward to future shows. Do your homework. Speak with your financial advisor. Have a great day.